And we are the Non-Prophets. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Jeff D. Our producer is Russell Glasser.
Hello.
And today's guest is Martin Wagner, co-host of the Atheist Experience. Hi, Martin.
Ah, thanks for inviting me. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. 2004, huh?
And still no God.
Yeah.
And still no rapture.
Funny.
Yep.
And I see another year went off without the dreaded Y2K4 bug.
Oh, that way, yeah. Oh.
Today's opening music was Puzzlin' Evidence by the Talking Heads. We are live. It's January 3, 2004. My New Year's resolution, by the way, was going to be that I'm not going to read the boring regular announcements, at least this show. So let's just skip that.
Okay.
Did everybody have a good turn of the calendar year?
I did.
Yeah.
Anybody do anything special?
For the actual calendar year?
Well, for the holiday season.
Oh, for the holiday season, I was off in San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
Not getting blown up by terrorists or hurt by earthquakes. So that was a good holiday
the whole
season.
heightened alert thing?
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Well, but it's good that...
He's the boy who cried terrorist.
But on the other hand, I mean, I would rather have them paying attention to the problem than not, I mean, it's good that they're out there saying...
Excuse me. Oh. Telling everybody that we're on orange alert.
Well, yeah,
orange alert
does not constitute paying attention.
Well, no, the color-coded thing is stupid, but,
They can pay attention and not make a big publicity ploy of... hey, everybody, look at us. We're so important. We've raised the alert level to orange.
Yeah, but you know why they do
for
that?
no apparent reason.
Well, they did that because of all the criticism they took, for not being on the ball, but pre-9/11. And everyone was like, wait a minute, what did you guys know, and why, what didn't you know before it happened, and now we're finding out you had all this intelligence and you didn't say anything, and that's why they're doing it.
The alert level has nothing to do with whether they actually know anything.
Oh, no, of course not, but it's there to make people think, but you're right, you can, but it didn't work if the idea was to make people all, be scared, folks, of terrorism. It didn't work, because it seems like everybody went about their holidays anyway.
The point theoretically should be, we know that something is going to happen, or is very likely to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So be on the alert.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. And, of course, someday something may happen, and then I'll be sitting here going, well, I guess I was wrong that time, right?
Yeah.
But really, I think the main effect of that alert level thing is an attention-getting, support-building ploy to frighten people not into actually taking any constructive steps against terrorism, but to frighten people into getting on board with this whole, let's take away our freedom.
The Homeland Security thing?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Homeland Security
what exactly are we supposed to do when the terror level goes up, except, I don't know, buy more duct tape?
Yeah. No,
it's always good.
Well, but if that's the intent, it isn't really working, because everyone thinks that the whole color-coded thing is stupid.
Do they?
Yeah. I mean, everybody just makes fun of it. Except, I guess, for the most part.
Except for Republicans.
Well, except for the Fox News crowd.
Judge by the crowd that we tend to hang with.
Well...
We're the more
not
attention-paying.
We're not
people.
normal.
I guess I have this bias towards taking smarter people more seriously.
But of course,
but it's
dumb
all
boys are for the purpose of manipulating dumb people.
Yeah, but the whole color-coded thing is just PR. It's just PR anyway. I mean, but I think most people recognize, look, this is just PR. I mean, what does it mean that it's orange? It doesn't mean anything. It just, I mean, and if you want to tell people...
I think they should have color-coded it according to the skin colors of the people we're supposed to be afraid of. Right? So we could have a yellow alert, and that would be attacks from, North Korea, and then a brown alert, people in the middle.
I think they should have done the whole color-coded system
alert.
That they wrote, that they reported on in The Onion. It's yellow equals something like, go ahead, go shopping, do your thing, and red equals pants-shitting terror. But yeah, it's all just PR. They want people to think, you're on the ball. Well, no. I mean, just taking care is common sense.
What would be on the ball? What would be on the ball is actually going over there and talking to those people that to get the impression that we're just shitting all over them all the time.
Okay.
Instead of pulling in our arms and legs into our turtle shell and putting up a big orange flag and saying, "Okay, terrorists, come and get us." Or what was it that Bush said?
Bring it on.
Bring them on. And
come on, terrorists, bring it on.
Yeah, and then how many servicemen died the next day?
No.
Thank you, George.
What a prick.
But if we went and talked to those people about shitting on them, then that would imply that we'd have to stop shitting on them.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we should do that. If we're, to the extent that we're doing it, we should stop doing it. I mean, that's where the hostility comes from, is from poor relations between our cultures.
Yeah.
Right.
So we didn't do much of anything for the actual. We went over to a friend's place and sat there with like a pocket watch out and said, "Okay, it's time," and each took a sip of our champagne. That was about it. And then we watched an episode of Firefly.
Oh yeah, did you get that DVD set?
I got the full season DVD. Firefly.
I'd like to watch it.
I'm missing
it
me too. More and more. The more I watch the DVDs, the more I think, God, I was an idiot for not completely, spending thousands of dollars on a letter writing campaign to keep that show on the air.
Well,
not
TV
that
is
it would
sucking
necessarily
these days,
help.
because they're not, good new shows aren't getting a chance to find their audience. It's like if they're not pulling in amazing ratings on the first episode, they immediately get canceled. The TV is just lame these days.
Well, but they,
yeah.
It was worse with Firefly because they didn't open it with the pilot. The pilot was like the last thing they showed.
Oh, so it was like doomed from the start, basically.
They made them make a new first episode to introduce all the characters. It had to be written in 2 days.
God, poor people.
It's an okay episode, but
it was written in 2 days. Did you get the Tick DVD?
I had the Tick for a while.
Yeah.
Another astonishing show.
That didn't get a chance. Didn't get a chance.
So, didn't do anything else really for the millennium. You guys anywhere? Or millennium, for the turn of the year.
I just went to a friend's party.
Yeah.
I just went to a party at a friend's. And
it was the basic.
Well, no, this was actually pretty good one. It was he had some property out near Bastrop, and so there was a bonfire and a bunch of people there, and they shot off fireworks. So it was bigger than you could have had in town, but it was still away from the traffic and the madness in the city, which was good. Good thing.
Paul was having a party anyway, and he called at the last minute and said, "Hey, can I have my party at your house?" So
we're an ACA party headquarters.
I actually would have called you, but it was really last minute, and I figured you would already have plans at that point.
We actually did at that point. So. Well, that was interesting. What about earlier during the holiday? Anybody do anything? Amanda and I went out to Del Rio, Texas.
Oh yes, I remember. You mean actual Christmas Day?
The holiday day.
Well, see,
I think
we had just arrived, and we realized we didn't have any diapers, and everything was closed on Christmas.
Oh
so
my
we
gosh.
had a panic moment, but we found a Walgreens, luckily.
Yeah, Walgreens at least managed to.
Yeah,
this just drives me crazy.
God bless Walgreens. That's all I could say.
Why? I mean, just everything has to shut down for a day. I mean, it's just such a pain in the ass time of year,
For real. I like the day after Christmas. I mean, everybody's still feeling cheerful, and you can go places.
Yeah, supermarkets
and the
are
damn
open again.
Music is slowing down.
Yes, oh
God damn, that sucks.
You just can't go anywhere without. Turn that thing off, please. Every store feels like you just want to. I cheered myself up by seeing Bad Santa. That was.
Oh, you saw it on the actual holiday?
No, I actually I saw it like 2 days before. And,
seen that. That was amusing.
Mm-hmm.
We went out to Del Rio, which is a terrible. We had people apologize or express people in Del Rio saying, "Oh, we're sorry you had to spend your Christmas in Del Rio." It's that kind of a town.
Oh dear.
It's a town where you go to the local gas station and buy a map of the town, and the Walmart is marked on the map of the town.
It's like a major landmark.
Hard to find those,
The running gag, the whole week that we were, several days that we were there was, anytime we'd have, maybe they have a place where we can buy one of these. And the running joke was, well, if they had one of those, it would be on the map. But mostly what we did is...
Do they have the Wendy's on the maps, too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Walmart. Oh, wow.
Walmart's bigger.
Oh, okay.
We went across the river into Mexico.
Okay.
To Acuna, and saw the way that those folks were living. It's not pretty.
No.
Why
we're all crawling under the fences to get here?
There was a guy.
Well, we should conquer their country, kill their leaders, and convert them all to Christianity.
That's right, Ann. Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah, the Spaniards kind of beat you to that 400 years ago, and it still didn't help.
We had a guy across the border as we were walking across the bridge. So there's it's like a 2-lane road across this bridge, right, with a wide sidewalk on each side. And we're walking up the sidewalk toward Mexico, which I guess the optimal thing to do is park your car in the U.S. side of the border,
just walk
get a taxi, and ride across. But all the taxis were out, and they weren't expecting it back in 45 minutes. So we just walked. And there's, of course, big chain link fences. A section of it actually has the chain link, bent over, overhanging the sidewalk. So if you wanted to climb it, part of the time you'd be climbing on your back,
right,
which would be awkward. But we had not the whole thing is like that. And then down on the ground on the side of the bridge, there's a little dirt access road and occasional gates and those gates were closed and locked, but then running along parallel to the access road was another chain link fence. But it had this big old gap in it, like a place for people to turn off the access road and go back the other way. And that happened to be right at the place where, right after the overhanging chain link ended. So we're walking and we get to the overhanging chain link and this guy bursts out of the traffic on the other side, on the going to the U.S. side, runs behind us, and we're going, what's this all about? And climbs up the fence, because he's right past where the overhanging chain link ends, climbs up 10 feet, drops to the ground, runs straight through that gap. He knew exactly where he was going, right? Bam.
How far did he get?
Done.
Wow.
We saw no sign of any kind of reaction at all.
Wow.
Disappeared into the tall grasses.
Wow. Interesting.
That's the access road.
Boy.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then we went to Seminole Canyon State Park, where there's many thousand-year-old Indian pictographs.
Oh, so that would be what you have this flyer here for.
Is that the park?
Well, it says Galloway White Shaman Preserve.
Amanda brought that from. Does that show Del Rio on the little map on the back?
This one appears to be. I guess so. Yeah, way over here.
Huh.
To the.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that area?
It's this one.
Oh, okay.
Seminole Canyon State Historic Park.
All right. Yeah, because
I'll hold this up to the microphone so everybody can see.
Everyone can see that. Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, we went there, and that was keen. There was hiking down this dry river valley thing and into these overhanging natural rock shelters where Indians used to live. And
cool.
We got a bunch of pictures of the pictographs rather than petroglyphs. Petroglyphs are designs etched into the rock.
Okay.
And pictographs are painted on the rock.
Okay.
And that was very keen, and that's what we did. We learned stuff, and we had.
Well, that sounds like a pretty great way to spend Isaac Newton's birthday. Just take a little vacation. That does sound like fun.
Yeah. So that was that. And now here we are, 2004. Has anybody else noticed that the whole millennium thing is getting a whole lot less exciting as it falls into the.
Well, yeah, the world's forgotten history, so there's no real reason to.
I used to be, even, through 2002, it was damn, 2000.
Yes, the 21st century.
2004.
Been waiting all our lives for this.
It's I keep checking my watch. When's something exciting going to happen? When are we going to get our rocket packs?
Yeah, I want
when are these space aliens going to land?
That's it. I want my little dial-up device that they had in Logan's Run where you just turn it on and hot women come to your house and have sex with you. Yeah,
I'd like one of those.
They just beam them in. Yeah.
You can never have enough hot women.
No.
Do we have any news? Perhaps now we should put this whole relaxed, festive holiday season behind us and do a little news.
Yeah, we have a little news.
Okay, then. Go ahead,
Bush signs parts of Patriot Act 2 into law.
He did?
You know how fond Bush is of sequels.
Patriot Act 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I didn't hear about this.
Well, I'm not surprised
that was the idea.
It was way back on December 13th, and something else happened on that day.
We captured Osama bin Laden?
Nope, we haven't done that yet.
No, we don't capture terrorists. We just capture men who look like terrorists.
I think we captured some crazy bearded mountain man who came out of a Monty Python movie.
Yeah. Found some dragworm hiding in a hole. And,
I haven't spoken for 18 years. On December 13th, when U.S. forces captured Saddam Hussein, President George W. Bush not only celebrated with a national security team, but also pulled out his pen and signed into law a bill that grants the FBI sweeping new powers.
Oh, joy.
That's never good news. A White House spokesperson explained the curious timing of the signing on a Saturday as, well, the president signs bills 7 days a week. But the last time Bush signed a bill into law on a Saturday happened more than a year ago on a spending bill that the president needed to sign to prevent shutting down the federal government the following Monday. By signing the bill on the day of Hussein's capture, Bush effectively consigned the dramatic expansion of the U.S. Patriot Act to a mere footnote. Consequently, while most Americans watched as Hussein was probed for headlights, this article is somewhat editorial in nature, in case you didn't notice.
Oh, that's good.
Probed for headlights? I don't even know what that means.
Headlights.
Oh, headlights!
Yes. Few were aware that the FBI had just obtained the power to probe their financial records, even if the feds didn't suspect their involvement in crime or terrorism.
Yeah. Let's celebrate the capturing of an evil dictator by taking away more rights in America.
Yeah.
And privacies in America.
He's transferred his power to George Bush. The Bush administration...
Well, I mean, in the old days, you used to actually eat a portion of your defeated enemy in order to gain their powers.
Ew.
Now you capture them, and then you just,
do what they were doing.
Sort of, you take over what they were doing.
The Bush administration and its congressional allies tucked away these new executive powers in the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2004, a legislative behemoth that funds all the intelligence activities of the federal government. The act included a simple yet insidious redefinition of financial institution, which previously referred to banks, but now includes stockbrokers, car dealerships, casinos, credit card companies, insurance agencies, jewelers, airlines, the U.S. Post Office, and any other business, quote, whose cash transactions have a high degree of usefulness in criminal, tax, or regulatory matters.
Well, Christ, that would be anything.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if you buy tickets to a movie, I guess you're you're patronizing
just use the keyword and you can justify any intrusion you want, apparently, is the way this government thinks.
Now, Congress, Congress passed the legislation around Thanksgiving, except for U.S. Representative Charlie Gonzalez. All San Antonio's House members voted for the act. Oh, this is a local story. This is from a San Antonio paper. Don't care about that. The Senate passed it with a voice vote to avoid individual accountability.
Wow! just when you think more jaw-dropping lunacy can't happen, it gets more amazing.
While broadening the definition of financial institution, the Bush administration is ramping up provisions within the 2001 USA Patriot Act, which granted the FBI the authority to obtain client records from banks by merely requesting the records in a national security letter. To get the records, the FBI doesn't have to appear before a judge nor demonstrate probable cause, reason to believe that the targeted client is involved in criminal or terrorist activities. Moreover, the national security letters are attached with a gag order preventing any financial institution from informing its clients that their records have been surrendered to the FBI. If a financial institution breaches the gag order, it faces criminal penalties. And finally, the FBI will no longer be required to report to Congress how often they have used the national security letters.
America, 1776 to 2003.
Zoinks.
Yeah.
2004. Well.
Oh, I thought he signed it in December.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of evil laws get passed. There have been evil laws passed before.
Yeah, but this is pretty.
They get challenged and they'll get shot down. I mean, we're going through a period where, for the most part, even though the Congress is passing all these jaw-droppingly horrific legislation, when it gets challenged and goes to the Supreme Court, they generally shoot it down, for the most part.
For now.
Not as bad as it looks.
We haven't even seen Bush elect any judges yet.
Well, yeah.
It's just so appalling that we have an administration that has such contempt for, our own Constitution that they would even do this with a straight face.
Right. Well, the solution to that is to elect a different one.
Well, of course, yeah.
Speaking of which,
I
understand.
They handle on the media. They can spin crap and the sheep believe it.
Can we go off on a tangent here for a second about Fox News?
Please. I'll talk about Fox News anytime.
I go into a bank,
right,
and they have a TV monitor playing,
yeah,
and it's Fox News. I go into a little Mexican restaurant, and they have a TV monitor playing,
and it's Fox
News. Mm-hmm. And I go just about anywhere where there's television playing, and it's the fucking damn Fox channel. Mm-hmm. Why? Is there some kickbacks going on? Why? Have you guys noticed this?
Good question. Yes, I have noticed it. I mean, because I go out to lunch with coworkers who like Fox News, and they always comment
but that would explain it, because they take you to places where they can listen to that.
Well,
right? But in general, the hotel that we stayed at in Del Rio, Fox.
Yeah.
Why always frickin' Fox?
I think the reason that Fox had, it's out there that it's the #1 rated cable news network now, so people just think, let's watch that one. I think that's just I think it's herd following.
Well, it's going to certainly help that they're on every single frickin'...
Yeah, of course they're top
But it's also... the reason I think Fox became popular in the first place, right, was that they turned the whole, art of television news reportage into just, tabloid TV. They took the tabloid TV approach to reporting mainstream news, and that just clicked with all of, the rednecks and the great unwashed, I mean, they turned what was traditionally, a very serious, now it's time for the news. They took the Entertainment Tonight approach to how they do news. Yeah, and CNN is even.
But I noticed
there's like rock and roll
sometime around the mid-90s, it seems like most mainstream news started turning into tabloids. I mean, because that's when you couldn't turn on a news station without seeing something about O.J. Simpson, John Bobbitt, or Monica Lewinsky.
It's not just what they're covering; it's the actual style of doing it.
Yeah.
It's, like Shepard Smith, who's a Fox News anchor guy, started out on one of, he didn't come from, Channel 4 in Lubbock or, where most TV... No, he came from a tabloid TV show. It's the whole chumminess and, we're one of you kind of thing that, just makes people receptive to... and if you mention that to them, they're like, well, we're just counteracting all the liberal bias that's on the other stations. Well, I think that's setting aside the whole conservative liberal aspect. They did the showmanship, tabloid TV, Entertainment Tonight approach to the style of reporting television news, which in the Walter Cronkite days was always just Walter Cronkite sitting there reporting the news and being professional about it. Quick sidebar for a comment on the Patriot Act from the chat room. The only way that we'll get the Patriot Act reversed is if we get a Democrat president who then intentionally uses it to abuse the Republican members of Congress.
No, that's not true. If people who actually cared about the rights of Americans were in power, they would take the frickin' thing down themselves. It wouldn't be necessary to get the other side angry in order to get it revoked. Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking of the other side, in this case, right, the opponents in the upcoming presidential election didn't Isn't there some news there also, Russell?
Yeah, well, Howard Dean, who
Howard Dean.
I'm sure we all know is currently the front runner in the Democratic field and endorsed by Al Gore, has said...
Which makes it pretty much, it's a done deal.
I don't know. I mean, I hear a lot of people still talking about Clark.
I like Clark.
Okay, go ahead.
And saying Clark
has not got the numbers. He doesn't have the support of Al Gore, who's like, suddenly, Gore grows a beard, and suddenly he's like, the elder statesman of the Democratic Party because Clinton.
Seen him with a beard.
Well, he shaved it off again.
Oh.
But that was the turning point for Al Gore and the Democratic Party, as far as I can tell. After that point, it's like suddenly he's the guy who's getting up there making speeches and rallying the Democratic Party because, of course, Clinton can't show his face.
Yeah, what's funny is that all the Republican shows right after the endorsement were like analyzing the hell out of this and saying, well, the Democrats are really unhappy that Gore is trying to seize power from them and take away the thunder from Hillary, who wants to run in 2008. And I was like, where the fuck are you hearing this? I haven't heard any of this from the Democratic Party. Most Democrats I know are happy that he took that he took a stand of that kind.
Right.
But
anyway, so
making stuff up.
So Howard Dean.
Howard Dean has done something a little odd.
Has he?
Well, I don't know about odd, but
it doesn't involve women's clothing, does it? That would be
no. I think we could live with that. Howard Dean, who has said little about religion while campaigning except to emphasize the separation of church and state, described himself in an interview with the Globe as a committed believer in Jesus Christ and said he expects to increasingly include references to Jesus and God in his speeches as he stumps in the South.
Right, so he's a panderer just like all the rest of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You heard that quote a while back about how the Democrats need to get back on board with the guys who have Confederate flags on their pickup trucks.
Yeah, which was an indelicate remark.
Somewhat. Well, he's going after them.
Sounds like.
But
Dean, 55, who practices Congregationalism, I never even heard of that, but does not often attend church and whose wife and children are Jewish, explained the move as a desire to share his beliefs with audiences willing to listen. His comments came as a rival, Senator Joseph Lieberman of Connecticut, chastised other Democrats for forgetting, quote, that faith was central to our founding and remains central to our national purpose. Figures.
Faith is central to our national purpose?
Uh-huh.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
No, calm down. He's not going to get the nomination.
No, but I mean, it's just such an obviously pandering statement.
Yeah.
I mean, what national purpose is he referring
Apparently to bring about the apocalypse.
Theocracy, yeah. Bring about the theocracy and the apocalypse, yeah.
The move is striking for a man who has steadfastly kept his personal life out of the campaign.
One brown alert. It's our national purpose.
Rarely offering biographical information, much less religious beliefs, but in the Globe interview, Dean said that Jesus was an important influence in his life and that he would probably share with some voters the model Jesus has served for him. Christ was someone who sought out people who were disenfranchised, people who were left behind, Dean said. He fought against self-righteousness of people who had everything. He was a person who set an extraordinary example that has lasted 2,000 years, which is pretty inspiring when you think about it.
Apart from the implicit assumption there that he existed in the first place, I guess if you're gonna play the religion card in politics and be a liberal, I guess it's reasonable to take the liberal interpretation of Jesus and put that up front, get behind that and try to hope to scoop up some Christian votes.
You mean, I believe Jesus was a great moral teacher kind of thing?
Yeah,
well, that he stood for the minorities, that he was against the greedy, big business Republicans.
Yeah.
Right, which is basically what he's trying to say there.
So Jesus is on my side, not yours.
Right,
I mean,
sure, but
it's another example of how opportunistic religion can actually be.
You can fit it
well,
in the ideology.
It's an example of how opportunistic politics is,
that too.
Yeah.
And an example of how incredibly
liquid Christianity is. You can apply to any ideology.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, when I read that Lieberman quote while skimming the article, I thought Dean said that, and that really scared me. But what he actually said was fairly mild.
Except that very first thing from him, if you could reread that.
That he's going to share it with more people?
Yeah, that he's gonna
increasingly include references to Jesus and God in his speeches in the South.
Yeah.
Which is a clear statement of, I'm going to pander to religious fanatics in order to get their votes. So why didn't you just say that? And when I'm down there stumping in Alabama,
that doesn't make a good soundbite.
You know, what worries me about this is it's such a invoking religion, playing the religion card, is such a cheap publicity sales ploy, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, when you see, let me try to think of a good example here. I mean, one corporation adopts a cartoon character to sell their product, and then that's successful, so the competitors start having their own cartoon characters to sell their product, right?
Right.
What worries me is that doesn't stop. There's no, until the next thing comes along that's more important than having a cartoon character, right? Until the next cheap ploy comes along, this is going to mean that in order to compete, you got to have a cartoon character. Or, bringing this back to politics and religion,
I got more Jesus than you.
Yeah, until the next even bigger ploy comes along, all politicians are going to feel that in order to compete, they're going to have to invoke religion. I mean, the only way to stop that would be for them to, like, grit their teeth and say, you know, this could cost me a few votes, but it's wrong.
Well,
I believe you said on the last show this won't end until people start acknowledging that we shouldn't talk about religion because it's stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that is the right way to talk about religion.
It's such the pandering is so obvious. It never ceases to amaze me that more Christians don't see it and get offended by it.
You can't judge these things on the basis of how
smart
our circle of friends interprets them, right?
Yeah.
We've made a concerted effort in our lives to only hang out with people with two brain cells to rub together. So, you know, look at what's happening out in the world around us.
But it's crazy because on the television show, right? I mean, we frequently get calls from Christians saying, "Oh, please don't lump me in with all those goofy fanatics." And I hate it when politicians get out there and talk about God because I know they're just trying to get my vote. And I'm like, dude, fine, don't tell us. Tell them.
Right.
You know, send an email to their campaign saying, I'm a Christian and I'm offended by you, using beliefs that are very precious to me as just, an advertising slogan to get your ass votes. Tell them that. Don't tell us. They're the ones who need to hear it. If Christians are so offended by this, you should respond to it. Don't vote for that man.
Right. Right. But they're not speaking up. Why? And I've been thinking about this. It's always bothered me that you do encounter a large number of professing Christian church-going folk that do see through this stuff, but they don't speak up, right? The Americans United with Barry Lynn, right? Minister out there fighting to defend separate church and state is a prime example of what's not happening very much.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, he is an exception.
And what is the action that he gets from his fellow Christians? He is constantly called he's a traitor to the faith almost is the way they respond to him when he's out there gunning for separation.
Yes. And I've been trying to figure out what it is. And I think a good analogy is, there's that phrase, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I think normally that's invoked as if the guy who lives in a glass house has come out of his glass house and he's throwing stones at somebody else's house, right? Because that's a practice you don't want to promote because someday somebody else might throw a stone at his and smash it. Right. No, I think you can apply the same phrase, but imagine staying inside your house with other people that live in the same glass house with you. and now you're throwing stones. They simply will not rock the boat.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're so surrounded by judgmental fellow believers that they can't come out and say, look, I think we as believers have gone too far in this area, or we're not speaking up in this area where we should. Yeah. And all the rest of them are like turning on them like, I'll leave to another analogy, like pod people.
Yeah.
And going, right? You don't belong inside our house. You're throwing stones at our glass house and it'll come crashing down.
One of us.
Mixing my metaphors there.
Oh,
pod people who live in glass houses.
Pod people.
There's a little more here.
That sounds like a Talking Heads song. Pod people who live in glass houses.
Yes, Russell?
Dean does not attend church regularly, but he said he prays daily. He is a steadfast believer in separation of church and state, he said, and opposes the placement of the Ten Commandments in a courthouse, is uncomfortable with a prayer invocation before a congressional session, though he would leave the matter to Congress, and is not bothered by the phrase under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. On the issue of a moment of silence in schools, Dean said, whatever the courts say is okay with me. The U.S. Supreme Court has struck down state-required moments of silence in schools.
It's a very scattered, erratic set of positions.
And he actually said,
what is the single principle or viewpoint on church-state separation that leads to all of those different conclusions?
Sounds kind of like live and let live.
Well, he sounds like what you just described, a not wanting to rock the boat kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's going ahead and saying he doesn't like. I mean, there's things that bother him, and he's saying that, which most Christians won't say. He's going farther than a lot of them on certain issues. Yeah. But why stop then and say, but under God and the Pledge of Allegiance is okay? I don't understand. I don't understand.
I would just be more impressed if any politician would come out and just say very simply that religion is the business of private individual citizens and none of the government's business, and now let's move on to the next topic. And just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Why can't they just make that simple statement? Maybe because it's easier to get votes by pandering.
Apparently.
And Jesus is the reason why we're such a great country.
Speaking of under God and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh boy.
We do this now, and this is going to be a big chunk of our show if we do this now.
Well, can I do my thing first then, because it's about faux news.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we'll just and it's actually very quick, and then we can get into that in
detail.
Great. When my folks were in town for Isaac Newton's birthday, we were hanging out in their hotel room. And they were just flipping. There were very few choices, right? So we were just flipping through various channels. They were actually waiting for a basketball game. But we had Fox News on. And I'm like, why in the hell are you guys watching Fox News? And they're like, we don't know. There's nothing else on. We're just, because they think they're full of shit. So
okay.
It's like, half of this stuff, half of what's on TV is, this is non-news. They just are looking to fill airtime. But we're getting ready to go eat somewhere, and I'm just, and this report comes on, and Fox News now has apparently jumped on this bandwagon of trying to, the conservative, whine right now, that Christianity's under attack. Okay? From all sides. The liberals are out to get us from all, and mainly, of course, the evil liberal media is the big culprit here.
Of course.
But what was funny was that the only examples in popular entertainment or in the media that they focused on as examples of Christianity under attack were some South Park episodes. They showed some clips from South Park. Ned Flanders from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
As being this horrible, cruel stereotype, apparently.
I don't think he's that bad. I think he's a good-natured parody. I don't think he's a mean-spirited parody. He's a really nice guy, and people who don't like Christians happen to think he's a huge dork. But
I know a lot of Christians who think that he's very funny. And the movie Bad Santa, for some reason.
What?
Yeah,
Santa.
Bad Santa. This Billy Bob Thornton movie. Well, they said this is an attack on the whole holiday of Christmas, apparently, even though that's not what the movie's about. And so Christmas is a Christian holiday, so by extension, Bad Santa is, I guess, an attack on Christians.
That's ridiculous.
But they hate
wasn't Santa an attack on Christianity?
Yeah, when it's convenient, when it is expedient, suddenly. Well, not only that, but not only is the movie not an attack on Christmas,
right?
And it's not even an attack on Santa Claus.
Right.
It's this movie about this small-time hood,
right,
who happens to dress as a mall Santa because that's the easy way for him to figure out what stores to rob. Okay.
Right.
But even if it were, and we're not even talking about Santa Claus as this fun Christmas secularized Christmas figure, right? Even if you want to say that Santa Claus had its origins in St. Nicholas, today Santa is totally secularized. But even if you want to say it was an attack on that, this isn't even an attack on Santa Claus. This is mall Santas. And I thought the mall Santa should be, if anything, a symbol of the crass commercialism of Christianity that Christians are supposed to hold in disdain.
Right.
Right? Isn't that what they say?
Right.
Remember that Jesus is the reason for the season.
Right.
And all that shit. Right? So this is how far they had to reach. And what was funny, right, was even, Fox trying to be all fair and balanced. They had another guy come on, the opposing view guy come on.
Right.
Who very rationally said, what's everybody whining about? You've got these Touched by an Angel, this show. Apparently there's some other new, religion-friendly show that started up last year. There's, Christian pop is very big. There's the Left Behind books are selling 80 bajillion copies. I mean, what's everyone whining about? There's all kinds of pro-Christian entertainment. But then, of course, Fox being Fox, they had to wrap it up with this whole, when will the media learn that attacking... And it was just such transparent bullshit. But... that this is how, how easy they can, this is the same sort of conservative pandering. It's always, it gets back to that quote from Goering during the Nuremberg trials. It's like, look, all you have to do is, to lead people is tell them they're being attacked, criticize the other side for being, not patriotic. Oh, well, they're not patriotic enough. They don't want to protect you and they're not on your side. And then you've got them in your pocket.
Yep.
But it was just so funny, right? I mean, here was Christmas, right? The entire goddamn country shuts down for a day or two because of this, this post-pagan holiday. You can't even go to restaurants, but supposedly Christianity's under attack from all sides.
Find me a mention of the Christmas tree in the Bible somewhere.
Yeah. It's just, they will just make shit up because, whenever they want to show up the secularists and the liberals, they're like, oh, well, 90% of people believe what we believe. But then when it's expedient, oh, we're under attack.
Right.
Everyone hates us. But we are everyone. But no, everyone hates us.
Sure. It's the whole persecution complex, which is, that
makes them feel empowered.
Yeah, but it's a sales pitch too, right?
Yeah,
Not only people get excited when they find an underdog worth supporting. Mm-hmm. So here's this organization that says it's an underdog,
even though they're 90% of the population,
and come with us, and we'll fight for truth and justice, and then. Oh, look, the thrill is constantly there because they're constantly making up these phantom enemies that are coming to get them.
They even distorted the whole...
I've got one that fits right into that, actually.
But this Mel Gibson film, they even distorted... Yes. They brought that up, and they tried to imply... And who's that fat gas bag on the... O'Reilly. He's also made the claim that the reason Mel Gibson is being criticized for this movie of his is because he made a movie that depicts Jesus positively. No. What he's being criticized for is that the ADL, who read an early draft of the script, thought, this sounds anti-Semitic. It's not that the movie's pro-Jesus, it's that some people are worried it might be anti-Semitic.
Right.
Okay? Make the distinction. But it's better for the sales pitch, to pander to your audience to...
Have you seen that, by the way?
O'Reilly, another guy that came to Fox News from tabloid journalism.
Tabloid TV, and lied about his awards. And
I won a Peabody, two Peabodys.
I tried to get a ticket to the Harry Nose Film Festival, which is always impossible to get, but apparently he screened it there. Apparently went over
Screened
big.
What? Mel Gibson's film?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very interested to see it. I mean, I think it's going to do.
Well, hey, the story of this, poor man that just wanted the best for the world,
dramatically is very powerful.
Getting mistreated is it's very dramatically powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One quick thing about a website I found where this persecution complex is also running rampant.
We're fullofshit.com.
I haven't tried that one, but This one is grinchlist.com.
Okay.
On their front page, they say, the Grinch List is a response to the growing censorship and revisionist policies and practices concerning Christmas that is evident in retail stores, public schools, government offices, businesses, and the media. So what do you think the chip on their shoulder's about? They're mad at businesses that are using the word holiday instead of specifically referring to it as Christmas.
So but basically, what they're implying here is that we should be the only people allowed to shop at these stores.
Right.
These should be Christian stores. If people of other faiths want to celebrate the holiday, too bad.
Yeah, they say you'll find a not too subtle version of censorship that attempts to expunge any association of Christmas with the holiday season, and you'll notice an aggressive marketing approach that substitutes traditional Christmas nomenclature with the term holiday.
See, another mimetic effect of this persecution complex, right?
Right.
Is you play the persecution card, right? You say, that guy over there, or that group over there, they're trying to destroy us. And like, if you're in that group and you're not trying to destroy them, you turn to them and you say,
what?
You people are frickin' morons. And then they go, see? I mean, that's how that works. I don't care. I'm going to call them frickin' morons anyway.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, they're going after department stores, which are like the worst offenders of commercializing the whole thing.
Well, they don't care about the commercialization right now.
Don't.
They were embarrassed by the commercialization when it was purely Christian territory, right?
Yeah, it was
holiday
embarrassment, like, oh, you guys, stop it. That's
right.
Thing.
Well, no, but then they could focus on that detail to try to perfect the Christianness of the holiday.
Right.
Now that they think they're losing their grip on the holiday in general, now it's, oh my gosh, they're trying to take it away from us. They're trying to disguise the true reason and turn it into this secular thing. Which, of course, we are trying to do in our culture because we're not all Christians.
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with making the holiday something that every American can enjoy? I mean, we're not saying you can't be Christian.
Well, they don't want non-Christians to enjoy it because then non-Christians will have less things to enjoy, and that will be a motive for them to come over and be Christians.
Yes, say come be Christian and you'll be able to enjoy these things. It all gets back to sales pitches. Still
on the subject of church-state separation, one thing I did find, I didn't bring any news in today myself because it was slim pickings for the last 2 weeks, I thought. But one thing I didn't bring in, but if Russell, if you wouldn't mind going to the Infidels Newswire, finding the story, it's a link to the CNN website where their legal analyst looks at the whole church-state separation thing and basically says, look, this is not an Christianity, and these people that are going after, Ten Commandments monuments and stuff are just following what the Constitution really says. It's a very well spoken article, and if we could get a tiny URL of that, so that we can mention it. What?
I mean, what? Do you remember the headline?
It's like in the first few days.
And
if you move your cursor over them and look at which ones point to CNN, you'll probably find it that way.
CNN. Okay. Find law, holiday decorations, religious clauses, and the Supreme Court.
Yeah, excellent article, level-headed, telling the true story of church-state separation.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll get you a tiny URL in a second.
Right. Now,
but the persecution complex ultimately is easier to sell.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, of course. And really, the only way to, I think, in my opinion, the only way to get past that is with effective ridicule.
Yeah.
Because if you don't say anything in your own defense when you're slandered by these people who claim that you are trying to destroy them when you're not.
Yeah.
Right? If you say nothing, they win. If you try to defend yourself, they win because they will say, well, look, they're attacking us now by calling us liars. So, the only thing to do is get them out of the position where they're being taken seriously enough that they can play that game.
Yeah,
hey, tiny URL. Here's news. Tiny URL has now gone to 5-digit website.
5 digits. Okay.
Oh no.
What are the 5 digits for the tiny URL to?
tinyurl.com/2CSY5.
2CSY5.
Yes.
Okay.
And could you post that to the chat room?
Can.
For the folks in the chat room? They might want to browse that while we move on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, on the subject of state-church separation, you may all be aware that Michael Newdow's Pledge of Allegiance case is going before the Supreme Court. And they are...
Is Scalia still recused?
Scalia is still recused.
Yay.
And I think his website is restorethepledge.com, where you can get a lot of background on this. His side in the Supreme Court case is trying to gather amicus briefs, that is, letters of support for his position by various organizations and individuals.
Hey, brief aside, Reggie, the infidel guy, just told me that we have 39 listeners today.
Hi, everybody.
39.
Yes.
Woohoo! Thanks, Reggie. Is that a lot?
I think it is.
It seems like more than usual. Don't we usually have around 20-ish?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
But I haven't checked in a long time.
Well, hi, everybody.
Ways to go.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends.
Let's
try to break 40 next time.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh, so they're putting together amicus briefs for in support of Michael Newdow's position in the Pledge of Allegiance case going before the Supreme Court.
Right.
And I'm working on one of these on behalf of the Atheist Community of Austin. But I know that my wife has written one on her own and is trying to get that pushed through herself. I mean, they need as much support as possible. So any of you listening out there, you can find information about this on Michael Newdow's website, or email them and offer support. They could use money. They could use letters, amicus brief letters in support, particularly from organizations. So talk to your local atheist groups if you're in one, and do whatever you can to try to put some support behind these. But in the course of working on mine, what I first did is I read amicus briefs in support of the other side, which are, by the way, posted at Newdow's website, restorethepledge.com.
Okay.
And I've only gone through 1 3/4 of these pro under God amicus briefs there, and it's. I can't sit at my computer and keep reading this stuff. The sorts of things that they are saying to the Supreme Court with a straight face in support of the idea that we should leave under God in the pledge are just brain-bendingly underhanded, dishonest, sick, and twisted. I mean, you wouldn't believe it.
So business as usual for them.
Apparently so. So I brought in some of my research on this subject. I've got about 2.5 pages of these things.
Oh, boy.
That I thought we might want to discuss here on the show, just to see whether any of their arguments actually have any merit. Actually, I'd like to see if any of their arguments are less than intellectually insulting. Okay?
Well, as our fine president said, bring them on.
Bring them on. All right, so here we go. First one. Reciting the phrase under God is just ceremonial deism. The contexts of ceremonial deism are patriotic, not religious, and are not part of the ritual of any single religious group. Such references are typically short and generic, as is the reference to God in the pledge. Yes, Martin. What's wrong with that, Martin?
Okay. I thought patriotism had to do with love and support of your country. So what does deism in any way, shape, or form have to do with patriotism?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. Deism has nothing to do with patriotism.
I think Manda's comment from last week applies, which is, why do we support ceremonial deism?
And why is
would we support ceremonial racism?
Yeah, why is ceremonial deism any more appropriate to support than out-and-out sectarianism.
Right. Or, I mean, ceremonial anything that you're not supposed to be able to do constitutionally, right? I mean, would the folks who think that the Constitution says we all are allowed to have guns, would they be in favor of ceremonial disarmament of the population? No. I mean,
would people?
How does making it ceremonial make it any less what it is?
Would vegetarians or vegans like a ceremonial barbecue?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
how about
by the
ceremonial torture suspected criminals?
That's right. Ceremonial torture of criminals.
Yeah.
It just I don't see how claiming that it's ceremonial makes it any less unconstitutional.
Yeah. Would straight people appreciate ceremonial homosexuality? I mean.
Right. Right.
I mean, what's
right.
It's just ceremonial.
Right.
Grab your ankles. We don't stand on ceremony. We bend for it. Sorry.
But this whole ceremonial deism thing, that two-word phrase, ceremonial deism, you'll hear that a lot because it is the excuse that has been used in previous court cases to justify leaving the religious stuff in.
All right.
By the way, I personally object to the phrase ceremonial deism because it isn't ceremonial deism.
Ceremonial theism.
It's ceremonial theism. Deism actually is a single religious group.
Yeah.
Right? Deists are a particular flavor of religious belief.
We can't be under God if it's the God who doesn't meddle in things and just created stuff and then left.
Well, there's that, but I mean, so this whole argument, which is, by the way, word for word what I read there, and all of these things are word for word from arguments made in amicus briefs to the Supreme Court.
Right.
I mean, they claim that it doesn't represent the views of any particular of any single religious group. Well, deism is a single religious group, but there's going to be no way around using that term.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
But they're not even using the terminology
They're using it
properly.
as synonymous with theism.
Yeah.
So, that's unfortunate. And,
well, it just goes to show how clueless they are about their own terminology.
Right.
I don't know if they're clueless necessarily. They'll just say whatever they think will work.
Yeah. But, bottom line, ceremonially excluding people on the basis
ceremonial
of their...
swearing.
Ceremonial swearing.
Okay, President Fuckhead.
I'm sorry, that's Mr. Fuckhead. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome, Mr. Fuckhead. Okay, here's another one. The Founding Fathers made their own religious references.
Neutron Jack, by the way.
Thank you, Neutron Jack. The next argument. The Founding Fathers made their own religious references, and usually this is accompanied by a laundry list of, Abraham Lincoln talked about God in the Gettysburg Address, and this guy said God and this other thing. What?
He's not a Founding Father.
Well, we're just for example's sake.
But,
right, but I mean, we can. Yeah. Jefferson says things about God, and Adams and all those guys said stuff about God. No, I'll take this one.
All right.
The thing is, the vast majority of the references that will follow that claim do not constitute official government policy or law. Those were those guys that were talking about a God, which is often not the same one as the Christian one, right? On their own time, and they're allowed to do that. They are. Just like Bush is allowed to say, God bless America in his speeches. He's allowed to say that. It's in bad taste, but it's not, that is not the government imposing a religious view on the people.
You also have to be really careful when you see some of those quotes, because one of the tricky things they'll do...
Yeah, many of them are just false.
But one of the things that they'll do is come up with a quote of something that was official government policy, except it predates the writing of the Constitution.
Yeah.
So they'll say something like, Congress started out opening up with a prayer all the time, except, that was in 1780 or whatever.
So the congressional chaplaincy, was that set up before the First Amendment?
I couldn't tell you.
Because that's the one that I can think of that's potentially, an egregious violation. But, even given that that the Founding Fathers did stuff to give religion the weight of official government policy or law. Some of the Founding Fathers also owned slaves, right? Yeah. And that was later found unconstitutional. Just because some of the people involved in putting the laws together and putting the Constitution together did things that later, in retrospect, we realize the Constitution itself forbids, doesn't mean that those things are not forbidden. And that's the argument that they're trying to make. Right. Okay, here's another one. The phrase, under God, simply acknowledges the historical fact of our Founding Fathers' religious belief. But the thing is, the pledge does not say one nation founded by theists.
Yeah.
It says one nation under God.
Yeah.
It does not say one nation that, was founded by some guys who thought that there was a God watching over them, paying attention to what they were doing and protecting them and stuff. I mean, it doesn't, it says that the nation is under God. So that claim that it's just an historical reference, I don't see that carries any weight.
Even if they could argue successfully that the under God phrase represents that, which I don't think it does, we happen to know the actual history of how the phrase under God ended up in the pledge anyway, right? The original pledge didn't have that phrase in it. It was instituted in 1954 as a result of special interest groups, and the Eisenhower administration latched onto it again as a great sales pitch in the whole Cold War against evil, godless commies.
Right.
So we know that is why. We know that that's why under God is in the pledge. It wasn't put in, to say, oh, well, our Founding Fathers all believed in God, so let's put this in there to acknowledge their beliefs. No.
I have a quote, by the way, from, let's see.
You have the one from Ike himself, where he says that that's why we did this?
This is Representative Louis C. Rabaut, R-A-B-A-U-T, testifying at the subcommittee hearing, described the need for the legislation as follows. That's the legislation to put the words under God in the pledge.
Okay, so this was back in the 50s then?
Okay. This is the guy actually involved in that decision. He said, by the addition of the phrase under God to the pledge, the consciousness of the American people will be more alerted to the true meaning of our country and its form of government. So the true meaning of our country and its form of government is that we're under God. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
Right?
So that was, all right.
To be even more specific, he further stated, the children of our land, in the daily recitation of the pledge in school, will be daily impressed with a true understanding of our way of life and its origins. So our way of life and its origins has to do with God. I mean, that is ultimately what he was saying. There's a more egregious one that I can't. Maybe I'll find it as we read along here. I'm not going to hunt for it. We'll get to it when we get to it. Here's another one. Try this for a brain bender.
All right.
The phrase under God is not a profession or endorsement of religious belief.
No!
Okay.
What can you even say about that?
Then why have it?
And if it
insist it has to be in there?
If it isn't, if you're not supposed to believe there's a God, what do you do in your mind when you're reading through the pledge and you get to that phrase? One nation under God.
They're admitting.
What does it mean?
If they admit it doesn't mean anything, then why have it in there? Why fight so hard, tooth and nail, to have it in there, and then turn around? Oh, but it doesn't mean anything. But we've got to have it in there.
But the thing is, if it doesn't mean anything, it renders the pledge itself nonsensical.
Yeah,
you can't parse it.
Yeah.
What do they mean under God if you're not supposed to assume that there is a God to whom the nation is subservient?
Yeah.
What then does it mean? Now, they've made the claim that it's just an acknowledgement of our Founding Fathers' religious belief, but it doesn't say that.
Right.
It doesn't say one nation founded by some theists. Once again, another version of this argument, the words under God merely acknowledge religion rather than promoting it. Well, no, it doesn't acknowledge religion. It doesn't say one nation where you have freedom of religion.
No, it says
under God, which is not all religion, right? There are godless religions, and there are pantheistic religions with multiple gods.
I don't hear it acknowledging them.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that rules out the Hindus.
Right. So it doesn't acknowledge religion because unless religion is defined to mean just the religion that it is acknowledging.
Besides that, God is capitalized, which makes it a proper name. It's referring to that specific guy. It's not referring to Zeus.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if
I'm not really with you on that.
If God were not capitalized, you could make a case that, okay, it's for God in general, some God.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about no, you can capitalize a word when you're talking about a job title, right? The capital G God in Christianity is not his name.
Yeah.
Right? It's a title. Like in Islam, it's Allah is God.
Like Christ is actually a title.
Right.
Right. Jesus, but Christ.
The Christian God's actual name is Jehovah. So I don't buy it.
But isn't it remarkable that one way that they're trying to defend the inclusion of under God in the pledge is by trying to strip it of any meaning.
Yeah.
Of any content.
I find that is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like it has no content. That's why it belongs in. That's just such an oxymoronic argument.
Yeah. Okay, check this one.
All right.
Conducting voluntary pledge recitation in public schools has been found constitutional. Okay. And that's true. There was a challenge to the recitation of a Pledge of Allegiance in just as a Pledge of Allegiance. Mm. That was challenged, and it was found constitutional. Mm. But this argument is specious, because that was a challenge to whether or not you could have a pledge. Mm. And Newdow is not challenging whether you can have a pledge.
Yeah.
He is now questioning what the content of that particular pledge can be. Mm-hmm. Those are separate issues, but here we have people going before the Supreme Court and arguing this like shell game of, well, this part of it has been found constitutional, so it's a done deal. We can let it drop.
But what's interesting is that if we were just talking about voluntary pledge recitation, that would be one thing. But what part of why the Court of Appeals in California went ahead and voted in favor of Newdow was because the law there stated that the pledge was compulsory.
Yes.
And they just passed a thing in Texas saying we want to make the pledge compulsory. So it's an irrelevant argument. I'm not even talking about voluntary pledge recitation.
What's up with them slipping in the word voluntary?
Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm still not entirely clear about how voluntary this is.
Yeah.
Okay? My current understanding is that it is technically voluntary for the kids, meaning there's no punishment listed for kids who refrain from doing the pledge. But it is not voluntary for the teachers to conduct the exercise.
Right. The school actually has to have the pledge recitation.
Right.
Students are allowed, the Supreme Court has said, to remain seated and not be part of it, if they so desire.
Right. Now, if that's the case, maybe a stronger challenge could have been brought against this by a teacher who was not a Christian.
Yeah.
Who objected to their job requiring them to do this, a job given them by the government that's not allowed to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I think it's strong enough.
Yeah. But it is. It's interesting how it's this wishy-washy gray area that I think the court needs to be more firm on. Because that's very easily confusing, right?
Right.
The school has to have this pledge recitation, but the individual students have the right to refrain. But that can lead to some confusion.
But then the same case was true. The same situation was true. That members of the audience could refrain was true in the Santa Fe, Texas high school football prayers case.
Right.
And the court did find that was unconstitutional because the school was hosting religious exercise in front of a captive audience. Yeah. And that is the same case here.
Yeah.
If it was wrong there, it's wrong here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you could very easily argue the whole captive audience.
Here's another one. Recitation of the pledge is a patriotic act and not a religious act. Bullshit. Yeah, bullshit. If you express a belief in God, it's a religious act.
It is transformed from a patriotic to a religious statement by the inclusion of this phrase that they say means nothing.
I don't see how it cannot be.
Yeah.
Now, you can have religion without God, but when you have God, you definitely got religion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like you say, it's a shell game. You take one piece of it away and you say that's okay, and then you take the other piece of it away. You're like, okay, it's okay to say a pledge. You agree with that, right? And you go, okay. And then you say, okay, and it's okay to voluntarily say, I believe in God. You agree with that, right? So if those two things separately are okay, then it must be okay to have to say a pledge with God.
Yeah, two great tastes that go great together.
Okay.
Get your damn chocolate out of my peanut butter.
Here's another one. Patriotic invocations of God.
Wait,
What?
Stop right there. That's an oxymoronic statement.
Yeah, well, hang on. Let me finish the thing. Patriotic invocations of God do not attempt to establish a state religion, nor suppress the exercise or non-exercise of religion. This is another version of the common argument that the First Amendment only disallows the government from establishing a state religion.
Right.
And it's true that monotheism, which is about as much as you can say about the particular religious view expressed in the pledge, it is monotheistic. It's true that monotheism is not a religion unto itself. But monotheism excludes, and I'm going to read now what I've written in response to this. Monotheism excludes a wide range of other faiths and religious viewpoints. Surely the Founding Fathers did not intend to imply that it was acceptable for the government to officially endorse one class of religious groups at the expense of all other religious groups, as long as the class that is endorsed consists of at least two different religions. Right? Okay. That's what they're trying to... When those people that say the First Amendment only means we can't have a state religion, they're saying, as long as it's two religions that fall under the references that we put, then it's okay. No, it's not okay. What's not okay is you can't exclude any of the other ones.
Yeah.
And there's no way to say anything about religion without excluding some of them, so the government should keep its big, fat mouth shut.
And I've heard Christians use that argument, for example, to defend what Roy Moore did. They're basically saying it's not unconstitutional because Congress didn't pass a law making him put that thing up. He exercised his right as an American citizen, and
he expressed his power
as a government official to use his position to.
Surely you wouldn't take away his right to decorate his courthouse.
Since when is it the right of any American citizen to waltz into the rotunda of a public building and start redecorating to I'm going to do trading spaces in here today, so no, it doesn't work that way.
But like I said on a previous,
what struck me immediately,
queer guy for the straight guy.
Like I said on a previous show. A 6-ton granite monument is not decorations. Balloons and streamers are decorations.
But again, right from the minute you read their argument there, I mean, when I instantly piped up, I noticed this conflating of concepts, right?
Right. Patriotic
acknowledgments of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, patriotism isn't about acknowledging God. It's about acknowledging your loyalty to your nation.
Right. I mean, even having that phrase, patriotic invocations of God,
that statement
admitting that it is a invocation of God. Well, you're invoking God, so in what sense is that not religious?
Yeah. But they're trying to redefine patriotism to be an invocation of God, not an invocation of love for your country. That they're trying to redefine literally the term
or at least shoehorn it in so that it's covered by that.
I think they're trying to do more blatantly than that. I think they're trying to redefine patriotism so as to put religious belief at the center of it. To be a patriot, you first have to be religious.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's where they're ultimately trying to go. Okay, here we go. Under God in the pledge has become part of the fabric of our society.
Well, so have drugs. So has reality TV. Okay, doesn't mean we should endorse that.
Right, and really, I mean, what I've written in response to this.
It's because they've made a concerted effort over the years to make it part of our culture. Like they can come in and keep saying it every day, and then one day they say, look, we've said it so often that now it's part of the culture. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right. This objection does not address the Constitution, but merely raises a fear that if under God is removed from the pledge, social chaos will ensue.
Yeah. Right.
Which is amusing because, as it happens, under God has only been in the pledge for 49 years.
Yeah.
It's not that long.
Yeah. Although you could argue that, things were pretty bad in the early 20th century and 18th century crime-wise and lawlessness-wise. But putting under God in the pledge isn't the thing that fixed that.
And nor was it put in there in order to fix that.
No. It's put in there to get those damn comics.
I mean, according to them, ever since, the beginning of the 60s, things have gotten steadily worse in the country. So we could say that adding the Pledge of Allegiance...
That's right, all the school
adding
shootings.
the under God part, that's why Columbine happened.
It happened since 1954.
Yeah, well, yeah. Wasn't it so much nicer America in the days when all those black people had to sit in the back of the bus?
Ceremonial racism.
Yeah, right. That's a joke, people. Irony.
Here we go. Now,
just making sure.
This is a bit unfair of me to include this, and I'll explain why in a second. But just so you can get your chuckles. Okay. Removing under God will result in substantial disruption of the daily lives of school children. Now, to be fair, this was not raised in one of the amicus briefs as an argument in favor of keeping under God in the pledge directly. Okay. It was an argument. It was an argument raised to explain why the Supreme Court needed to take this case. Okay. Right? That if you don't take the case, the lives of the school children in California who are affected by the Ninth Circuit Court ruling will be disrupted. Okay. You've got to take the case. Well, but really, what they are saying is that this decision was bad because it's going to disrupt the daily lives of school children. But didn't it disrupt the daily lives of school children back in 1954 when they had to learn to start adding under God to their pledge?
And
exactly the same. It certainly did. I happen to know. My dad told me that it was a major jarring shock for a whole lot of his classmates.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't suppose he'd be willing to put that in writing, would he?
He probably would.
Would you please ask him to write some official statement of, I remember back in the day, and it was jarring?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that would be amusing.
But anyway, you know what that is? That's a testable claim. All right, let's pick a high school in America at random, and for a year, we'll just stop having the pledge at the beginning of the class day. Yeah. And at the end, we will see, are the grades any worse? Yeah. Does the football team have a losing season? Are there more drugs? Are there more cheerleaders getting pregnant?
I would not like to hinge it all on one school.
Let's do let's have a series of schools, and then let's have the control group, and that's a testable claim. Let's do an experiment.
Yeah.
And see.
You're never going to get people getting behind experimenting on our nation's children, but and I don't think they were. I don't.
47 listeners now.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Reggie's been campaigning for us.
Reggie, you rock.
Yeah.
Hello again, everybody.
So let's try to get to 50.
Yeah.
50!
Woo! Tell two friends and get them to tell two friends and so on and so on and so on.
We've got about 7 minutes till closing music, though.
Oh, okay. Well, let's try to get through this quickly. Next, the phrase, under God in the pledge, now conveys a secular message, even if its message was religious when first adopted at the height of the Cold War. This is part of this long extended argument that I ran into, which basically admits that the phrase was put in the pledge for religious purposes. The religious purpose being to unite our nation behind our most popular religion in defense against godless communism in Russia.
Okay.
This argument goes on to claim that since the phrase was put in there for a religious purpose, which was to combat the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union is gone, that proves
that it
no longer has a religious purpose.
Oh, I see.
Because Russia is gone. I couldn't freaking believe it. They literally argued that in front of in an amicus brief to the Supreme Court.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. But that isn't that another case of just let's redefine terms whenever we feel like it if it suits us?
It's just like hideously dishonest.
So doesn't that mean that, okay? So then, by that same logic, by the same underlying logic of that argument, if I tell a woman that I want her to give me a blowjob, does that mean I'm telling her that I respect her mind? I respect her as a person.
I don't understand.
Well, if I've known her for let's say I've known her for a while, so we're already friends.
Yes.
So if I suddenly tell her that I want sex from her, it's just an expression of my friendship. You see, it's like you're trying to, you have some, it's like we have a sleazy thing that we're trying to do, but we're going to justify it because we're going to say the original.
No, but I think it would be fair. I think it would be fair.
You get the point. I mean, it's like.
I think it would be fair to say if you were originally attracted to someone because of their tits.
Yeah.
And then they, no, it wouldn't be fair. It would be like arguing. You're originally attracted to somebody because of their tits, right? And then they have a mastectomy, right? That now you're not attracted to them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anyway,
that's what it seems like to me.
In case anyone was baffled by my example, the point I was trying to make was just you can't just say, we mean one. We're saying one thing, but it means another thing.
Right.
We don't. We're saying that we have a reason for doing things. And that doesn't mean that we, are the thing.
Right.
That
if we do a thing for reason A, and reason A becomes invalid, but we keep doing it,
we can't say it's always been reason B.
Yeah. Well, but they're arguing that it's reason B now. Actually, they're arguing that it's reason not A now. Okay. Well, I agree. It's no longer to combat the Soviet Union. It's to combat lack of religion here in the United States, which is the same frickin' purpose. Yeah. Next, the pledge has none of the trappings of a religious ceremony. Well, it's got one. Invoke God.
Yeah. We can arrange for it to have none.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Ceremonial deism makes no intense demands of believers, does not address ultimate questions of being, does not directly address God as does prayer, creates no lasting or meaningful religious commitments, and is an expression of society's integration rather than a source of it.
So again,
this is a whole bunch of different claims.
So again, they're saying this phrase means nothing, that's why we should have it in there.
However, ceremonial deism does make intense demands of unbelievers.
Well,
we are asked to assert that a God exists.
And in any event, we've already worked out that it's not ceremonial deism, it's ceremonial theism.
Asserting the existence of a God addresses ultimate questions of being. Yeah. It does. It says there's a God.
Yeah.
A ceremony need not equate with prayer in order to be a religious practice. This is another one of those shell games, right? Oh, it's not like prayer, therefore it's not religious. Oh, come on, there's all kinds of religious things that aren't prayer. Anyway, let's move on there. The officially commanded use of the phrase "under God and the pledge" is distinguishable from the officially sanctioned prayers which have been found constitutional. Once again, that's that same argument, right? Yeah. It isn't prayer, therefore it's not religious. Well, bullcrap. It is common knowledge that government acts may undergo a metamorphosis from religion to secular. The Sunday Blue Laws are the best known example, and then there's a bunch of citations from a court case where the Blue Laws in the state of Maryland were challenged on the grounds that they were religious in nature. The court found that, yes, they started out that way, but they now fulfill a secular purpose, and so it's okay to keep
What secular purpose?
Setting aside whether or not their conclusion was correct in that case, in this argument, this amicus brief cites the 5 factors that the court said it considered in reaching its decision. Here they are. Recent popular support of these laws was premised on secular considerations. That's they're claiming. People said they wanted them anyway, and it had nothing to do with religion. B. Judicial decisions dating to the mid-19th century interpreting the Blue Laws treated them as secular enactments. So that just means courts were not talking about these as religious things for a while. C. The blue laws did not single out for prohibition activities offensive to religious sensibilities, instead banning activities that would interfere with providing a Sunday atmosphere of recreation, cheerfulness, repose, and enjoyment. That's just basically restating that people had those particular secular desires in mind when they wanted to keep not selling booze on those days.
Okay.
And I think that's complete and utter bullshit.
No.
I know a lot of people that get their recreation, cheerfulness, repose, and enjoyment from beer. Now, check this one. D. Amendments to the laws systematically stripped them of religious references and content. So the blue laws on the books no longer had the phrases in them that said stuff like, it's going to be illegal to sell beer because it's against God. The against God had been removed, the religious language had been removed, therefore it was okay.
So then no problem.
Do you all see how this applies to this case?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want.
And they cited this.
Yeah.
They cited these 5 principles from that court case.
Excellent.
While arguing to the Supreme Court that, no, you should be able to leave under God in because it's secular now.
Yeah.
And here's the standards on which it was determined secular.
Yeah, because they took
the
God out.
word God out.
Amazing.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I'm late.
Are we done?
Yeah.
All right, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. We probably won't be able to play all the song, but enjoy it anyway.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How late were you?